So, how do you know when you should file for divorce or why you should file for divorce? Maybe your spouse stepped out on you. That seems like an obvious reason, right? Maybe there are issues where your spouse has become addicted to drugs and you just can't deal with that anymore because you can't control it, you can't stop it, you can't handle it any longer. Maybe your spouse has become violent against you and is creating a danger for your children. There are reasons that seem obvious as when you should get divorced. But you may also wonder, what about the other things I'm dealing with? What about the fact that we don't ever communicate like we used to? Is this normal? You may be tired of living in a frigid zone where there's no contact, there's no physical contact, there's no emotional contact, and you may feel like you finally reached the limit where you can't handle it anymore. Maybe the arguing is overwhelming and you can't deal with the stress of coming home to that same toxic environment every day. What are the reasons why maybe you shouldn't get divorced, or maybe this is not the right time for you? There may be some considerations about the age of your children. You may decide that, hey, the kids are almost grown. We're in our senior year of high school. Our kids are going through all this stuff. We don't want to put them through an additional stress right now. Maybe it's not the right time to get divorced for you because you have not gone as far as you can trying to work out your problems. Every marriage is worth saving if it's possible. And if that means you need to get into counseling, if that means you need to really be honest with your spouse about how you're feeling, you've never talked about it before, and you need to try to work through it together, this may be the time that you should not get divorced. Maybe you're at a point right now where you're just dealing with so many personal things that maybe your spouse is not the enemy you think they are. Maybe you really have some things you need to work on yourself to where you can have a functional marriage again. Every marriage is worth saving if possible. And if you don't have to file for divorce, even as divorce attorneys, we would encourage you, do what you can to save your marriage. You may have grown up in a divorced family. Maybe your coworkers are all divorced. Maybe all your friends have divorced, and you wonder, is there any option besides divorce for me and my spouse? The truth is, yes, there are other options. You may not want to be divorced right now because of financial considerations or because of insurance or because of tax reasons. If that's the case, a legal separation could be the route for you to go. In a legal separation, it's honestly going to feel and look a lot like a divorce. You file a complaint, you get the other party served, you even can have a trial or reach an agreement at some point, and you're going to get an order at the end that even could deal with things like custody, visitation, ownership of a home, all these things that would feel like a divorce, but you're still legally married. Some people choose to go the route of a legal separation because it gives you some security to know that bills are going to be paid, you're going to have a place to live, while at the same time you're not living together and you have a goal to ultimately work to get your marriage fixed if you can. You may have counseling as a condition of your legal separation. Maybe you're not even ready to go that legal route yet, and you just need to sit down with your spouse and say, hey, we need some time to see what we can do. I'm going to work on me, you work on you. At the same time, let's try to stay in touch with each other, maybe get together once a week for dinner, and let's continue to work on our problems together as we work on our problems apart. So you may not even have to go a formal route of a legal separation unless you have special considerations like the kids or the house or the bills. So there are other options. Sometimes even just stay in the same home, but committing that, you know what? We're going to do our best to put our personal feelings aside and look at only the facts. Because the truth is, your facts and your feelings can be two very different things. The great thing that I've learned over my many years of doing this kind of law is that your feelings are going to be very fickle and they can change easily. But the facts of who you are and the value that is there if you can save your marriage is oftentimes worth putting the facts over your feelings. And then we can work this out if we put in the hard work that's going to be required for me to admit my wrong, you to admit you're wrong, and in the end we can come together as a stronger couple. So there are all kind of options that may be available short of filing for divorce. And if you're looking at any of those options, we'd be glad to offer you advice and counsel about how you can get to the point where you want to be avoiding filing for a divorce. If you're about to file for a divorce, there are a lot of things you need to take into consideration. You got to think about your emotional stability. You got to think about your financial stability. You've really got to think about how your whole life is going to look differently after the divorce than it does right now. Not all of those things can happen immediately. You can't build new friends immediately when you get divorced. You can't have a new job or new home immediately when you get divorced. You've got to put some planning and preparation into these things. And so if you believe that's the route you're headed, you need to right now be building the support system around you that you need, whether it's coworkers who care about you, family members who are willing to support you, maybe even family members who are willing to let you couch surf with them for a while until you get your own place. You may need to be stocking back some money to make sure that you've got the financial ability to care for yourself or your children if you come to that point. There are a lot of considerations to take into effect when you're looking at a divorce. Socially, economically, and otherwise, you need to make sure that you're going to be as comfortable as you can be when the divorce is filed as you are right now. And if you put the forethought into it and are really willing to plan in advance, your results are always going to be better than if you act on emotion and jump into something you're not prepared for. So if you have any questions at all, maybe it's the right time, maybe it's not the right time, maybe you should, maybe you shouldn't, any questions about divorce at all, reach out to our office now.